All right, hey, let's do a really quick walkthrough of this topographic noise setup that I've got going. This is something that's been on the YouTube page for a month or so, and I just really liked how this one came out. So we're using vector displacement for driving the noise, but we're chopping off the bottom of the noise field, and we're just using a map range for that. That's what's going on in geometry nodes. We can walk through that in a second. And then this shader setup, some of it is just left over from before what's going on. So we won't pay attention to some of the stuff that's disconnected. But we're using a wave texture that just has a really sharp cutoff to get these bands that go around the geometry. And then you can see that I originally started off with using orange and red setup, but then I ended up liking the blue and just didn't change the color ramp and just offset it using a hue and saturation setup. So let's just walk through the geometry node setup really quick. And then, oh, this is already set up in geometry nodes because I'm lazy. Oh no. Okay, so we've got a grid set up here with 500 by 500, and we're just using the X and Y size that we've got here so that users can make it how wide or how deep as they want. But yeah, then if we don't use the set position, that it's just a grid. So we've got the same kind of add position set up here, but the difference is we've got this map range node. So instead of it being from 0 to 1, which would give us this look, we're going 0.5 to 1 so that we anything that would end up in that 0 to 0.5 is getting cut off and is just being remapped to 0 to 1, but it is really only the upper half of what's being generated by the noise texture. And then this was just a little bit of creative refinement. I liked the way that it looked a little bit more with this. I just liked it a little bit more. If you have questions about that, you can go watch the vector displacement tutorial, which I will link below. But that's it as far as geometry nodes, very simple. Now let's jump over to our shader editor. And here, all we're saying is for whatever object it is, there's no additional creative rotation or mapping or anything happening, which is driving the wave texture. And if I jump in so we can actually see what this would look like, this is the scale of the waves of how often they happen. Pretty obvious. We are adding a little bit of distortion. I liked the not perfect look, so 0.8 is what that was. We can keep going through. This is something where it was just really trying to get that to be as thin of a line as possible. And so we could still make it more thin. I'm not trying to say that we can't. We could do some map range stuff, but Color Ramp did it in this. And the way we're getting this is we're blending two materials together. So we have an emission and a principled BSDF. And this is acting as the kind of glass semi-transparent material. You can see our transmissions all the way up and just a slight amount of roughness. And we are using a volume to just drop off what you see intensity wise, just a little bit in the middle of the material. It's not doing that much anymore, but we are using the wave texture to drive the factor between the two. So the wave texture is telling you when you get to see the emission material, which is down here. And we're using some different noise textures to create just a little bit of randomness. So it's not just solid blue or whatever color you want the whole time. And that's being mixed with this glass shader, which has a noise texture in the clear coat roughness, which we're not using that much clear coat. So you wouldn't notice a huge difference if you remove it. It's just kind of barely there. But that's the entire setup. The geometry nodes is driving the displacement. If I jump out of this, just moving it along one axis, we've got one single backlight in the back right here. And that's the whole thing. And then you can send it off to a render farm or just record over a few nights. What I put on YouTube was 3,000 frames and then just back to back. I don't remember if I blended between the two or if it's a hard cut, but That is the overview of the topographic noise setup. If you like it, please go grab it on my website, or if you want to build it on your own, please do so. Best of luck as you continue working in Blender.